this, all right? So you've got Bill Gates, billionaire philanthropist who funded this, right? You've got David Coleman and a small group of cohorts who are primarily responsible, not electable, unaccountable to you and me. You don't like Common Core, your state doesn't like Common Core now, there's nothing you can do. You can't get at that. You'd have to try to work legislatively to remove it. A huge burden. Now we're only waking up to what it is. And if you don't like it, you have to go to extraordinary means to remove something that nobody in your state, or any state, or the Congress, or the Senate of the United States, something that no governor, no teachers union, no mom and dad ever voted for, now you got to remove this. This is banana republic stuff. There is no accountability. There is no way for us as tax. We're the ones paying the taxes for those schools. There's no way. We have no say in this. And with all of Bill Gates' money, and with all these activists' input, there's no way they could have put it in your schools without the federal government. You understand that we have for 40 years now, but certainly over the last 8, you understand that we have a federal government that is terribly, terribly jealous of what it does. It doesn't let people do things that it does. In fact, this federal government is very busy trying to stop you from doing the things you do so it can do them. The idea that you can just, out of the blue, create educational standards funded by a private citizen and have them conquer the schools, do you honestly think the federal government would have allowed that if they didn't want it? So why didn't the federal government just do it like they did healthcare? Because of a 1965 federal statute that prohibits the federal government from creating national curricular national standards. They legally can't. There was no such bar to Obamacare, at least that's what John Roberts thought. There's no such bar. So what did they do? They had a bar with Common Core. So what they did is they brought in people like David Coleman with deep, deep ties to this administration. Roommate of Arne Duncan, a big money bundler for the Obama campaigns, the last 2 presidential elections. They bring in people like that, paid for by Bill and Melinda Gates. But none of those things got in your schools. How many of you remember the Race to the Top program? That's right, it's a federal program, isn't it? The vast majority, well over 40 states that took Common Core took it simply by taking Race to the Top money. Over 40 states. Think about that. Obama, remember back in 2008 and 9, when the president was stimulating banks and car companies, most everything possible such in the economy. Remember that, right? He set aside billions, $6 billion initially, $6 billion of taxpayer money to give to state education departments. And the only meaningful codicil, the only meaningful proviso for taking that money is if you took Race to the Top money, you had to accept Common Core state standards when they were finally written. Most of the 40 states that took Race to the Top money took it without ever having seen Common Core standards. That's how the vast majority of states took it. And for those states that did not win Race to the Top money, but took Common Core anyway, they were promised millions and millions of federal dollars just for taking the standards. I want to reiterate that for a second because it's important. The federal government, back before the standards were clearly visible or understood, they paid states. Give you an example, New York. The state of New York took $700 million back in 2009 from Race to the Top. Went directly to the education budget. That money could be spent on tetherball, substitute teachers, technology, whatever they wanted. The only string attached was by taking that money in 2009, New York State was on the hook and had to adopt Common Core 3 years later when it was finally rolled out, 2.5 years later when it was finally rolled out. That's how New York State got it. Nobody knew. So you understand that the federal government, the idea that this is not federal, the only way it could get in your school Senate Bill 286. It says this, that any school in Wisconsin that takes one dime of public school money, or public money, state money, federal money, any school in Wisconsin that takes one dime of state or national money, that school will be required to take the National Common Core tests, whatever their curriculum and their own testing is. And any school that fails to perform up to the state's determination of what is good for 3 consecutive years, the state can take it over in the name of those kids. So you got a Catholic school in Milwaukee that takes vouchers, right? And you bring in these kids out of a bad situation to give them choice. These Republican geniuses have proposed a bill that those kids, regardless of whatever pedagogy you're teaching, as you pointed out, Catholic schools seem to be doing historically a very good job of it. Not anymore. They're going to have to take those Common Core tests. And when you make the Catholic schools who are taking money take Common Core tests, what do you think the Catholic schools are going to have to start teaching? Absolutely going to have. In fact, why did 176 Roman Catholic dioceses take it? I've talked to most of them. Because they're afraid. They're afraid that once these tests, these national tests that are going to determine how your kid, what colleges your kids get into, once the ACT and the SAT become Common Core, the Catholic schools are terrified that their kids, no matter how well educated they might be, will not be able to pass, and they probably won't be able to pass those Common Core specific tests. So you see what the federal government's doing through Common Core? Do we need a better explanation for it than the words common? What does that mean? Common. We all have it together, right? Common, yes. It can also mean uninteresting. Well, as a Shakespearean professor, it's an allusion to prostitution, isn't it? I like that. Remember what Hamlet says to his mother when he calls her out on her adultery with his uncle? Ay, madam, 'tis common what you're doing. This is Common Core. But it's also common, and it's cheap, but it's also common in the sense that everyone's got to have it. Everyone will have to say. This blanket covering of this. And one last thing about that, what's going on in the Milwaukee voucher schools. Take the Milwaukee diocese. I'll end there because I got involved with Common Core. First with the Catholic schools. In Green Bay, the vast majority of moms and dads saw this come into their school, and nobody knew about it. With one May they went home. They came back September last year, and all the textbooks had been replaced. Nobody knew what it was. That's how I started.